Hello colleagues, Steve Johnson, President and CEO of Health First. This is the third in our series of videos this will now be the third successive month in which I have been addressing the issues that are occurring in healthcare. The first video 2 months ago, we focused on all the accomplishments that we've had over the last 7 years, and they are many. If you haven't seen that video, I encourage you to go back and take a look at it. You'll be proud. The next video, I talked about the major trends in healthcare and what's happening in healthcare to change the ground under our feet as we speak. And I'm going to summarize those for you again very quickly to set the plate for the third installment, which is this month's video. What is our response to what's happening in healthcare? And you'll be hearing me speak, sometimes seeing me flip pages as I'm looking to make sure that I'm getting the content in the video. And you'll be seeing a lot of what I'm reading as overheads on the screen, almost me as a voiceover as we go through the video today. So let's begin. So I'm going to review for you, as I indicated, the 7 major trends in healthcare that are occurring nationally that are affecting how healthcare is and will be delivered. I won't go through this in detail either. If you'd like to get more specifics on this information, I included a lot in last month's video, including graphs and diagrams and all kinds of numbers to illustrate these points. But in summary, the first is consumerism, the general rise in expectations for people that are purchasing goods and services of all types. Historically, that hasn't included healthcare. It is now. The people that we serve are increasingly shopping for service and are increasingly having higher and higher expectations about the service component of what we deliver. 2, payments and reimbursements are declining and will continue to decline for as far as the eye can see. As I illustrated last month, we here at Health First have had $50 million in reduction in payments in Medicare and Medicaid alone since 2011 through 2018. That's $50 million a year annually. And we're serving about 20% more people in those two categories than we were before in 2011. These trends are only going to continue. Politicians cut budgets when times are tough or issues are not sustainable. Count on more. Item 3, the digital revolution. As you'll see in the overhead, healthcare on your smartphone. Things are changing, and they're changing almost overnight, from digital innovations like the smartphone and all kinds of apps that relate to your health, till the dramatic increase, or up to and including the dramatic increase in artificial intelligence. Supercomputers like Watson. Watson has a very dedicated part of its capability that's focusing exclusively on healthcare, changing our world. Item 4, consolidation and scale. Hospitals and health systems across the country are emerging. Very hard to say whether that's a smart thing or a not smart thing, but it's a recognition that those systems, those hospitals, know things are changing and are merging with other systems in response to try and react. The 5th phenomena is Wall Street is jumping into healthcare in a big way. Billions of dollars are being invested from Wall Street into healthcare firms, and almost none of it is in hospitals. It's all in consumer-oriented healthcare, around primary care physicians, around outpatient or ambulatory services, and around means to manage population health or the wellness of large groups of people. The 6th trend nationally is that ambulatory and other easy access, if you will, sites are exploding in number, in location, and are also increasing in the complexity of services that are being handled on the ambulatory side. Things that were once only done in hospitals are increasingly being done on outpatient settings. And the 7th, providers like us, like hospitals, health systems, physicians. We're increasingly bearing the financial risk for our outcomes. What that means is we're not being paid simply for doing things. We're being paid for doing things that get a predicted or desired outcome. And if that outcome is not forthcoming, we pay a penalty for that. So those are the trends that are setting the occasion for the reality of our current marketplace. Now let's spend the rest of the time talking about what our response will be. Item number 1. This will first be a summary, and I'll go through each of these in a bit more detail with you in just a moment. Patients and members are also customers. I know that's a tough concept, particularly for clinicians. But clinicians, I'm one of you, clinicians, hang in there with me. Let me explain in a moment. We must continue to evolve and refine our integrated delivery network, our IDN. We must become transformationally more efficient, more affordable. We must enter into strategic partnerships that make us better. And we will invest in our future. Now I'm going to take you through each of those in a little more detail. We will be serving our patients and members as customers also. Providers and clinicians in particular, understandably, many of us are sensitive to the use of the word customer or consumer when talking about the folks that we serve, to whom we've traditionally referred to as patients. We must find a way to preserve the historical and honorable connotation of the word patient while embedding the notion of customers. When I was at SSM Healthcare, the Catholic system that I worked at immediately before coming here, the sisters who ran that organization for years embedded in us the notion that healthcare was the fulfillment of a sacred trust. And what they meant by that was that these were human beings that we're serving, human beings that deserve to be treated with dignity, respect, compassion, and love with each and every interaction. That's the nature of the sacred trust that exists between we as caregivers and the people we serve as patients. By embedding the notion of customer, that is, people who have an economic stake in the game, people who can actively make choices about what they select and what they don't select, and who have service expectations, is that it's an and also, not an either or. We don't want to lose the sacred nature of the relationship between those of us that are on the clinical side and the people that we are so privileged to serve. But we must recognize that these patients are also customers and will increasingly make choices about where they get their care and how they get their care. We're going to re-examine all of our processes from the customer's point of view. Just think about the work that we do. Think about the things that we do day in and day out. Does it make sense for the people who experience it? Think about some of the other services you get where you're made to wait in line outside of healthcare and you go, my goodness, why don't they consider how this feels for me? Let me give you an example of where we've done this very well at the Breast Health Center, which is located at the Gateway Center. We took many of the capabilities we had for women for supporting breast health and for treating disease of the breast. We took them from many locations which would require those women to go from location to location, diagnostic center to physician office. And we co-located all those services and all those clinicians in a single location to make it easy and comfortable for the people that we were serving. That's the notion of re-examining our processes. We have to develop a strong and pervasive culture of service. We have a wonderful group of clinicians, and if you'll go back to the first in our series of videos where I shared our clinical results, you have improved the quality of our outcomes dramatically over the last 5 or 6 years. We also must focus on the quality of caring as well as the quality of care. We got to look at patients as customers and embed the notion that we're being judged on our caring as well as our care. So while it's essential, it's not enough to be clinically competent. And I know that's a tough concept. We must delight our customers while serving them. And delight may be a tough word too, but I'm going to hearken back to the sister I just referred to and the sisters that taught me and taught our colleagues the notion of living up to the sacred trust that's embedded in healthcare. By delight, I don't mean make them laugh, make them giggle, make them say that's the most fun I've ever had in my life. Not at all. That they walk away knowing they were treated with dignity, that we respected them, that they were shown compassion and empathy, and even that we demonstrated love. We do that, we'll delight folks. Folks don't expect a joke at a hospital, but they want empathy. They want compassion. They want human connection. That's delighting our patients as customers. The next item, we must continue to refine and evolve our integrated delivery network. And please recall our IDN, which is the center of our strategy, is the integration of our 4 operating divisions and 4 components of capability. Our health plan, our hospitals, our medical group, and related clinicians, and our outpatient and wellness services. So we've got to continue to link all of those divisions and operations seamlessly, especially from the customer's perspective. How difficult is it for our patients to move between inpatient and ambulatory? Do they have to call 2 numbers? Do they have to talk to a whole series of people? Do they have to re-enter their clinical information or even their basic demographic information time and time again? Just because it's simple for us doesn't mean it makes sense for our customers. We've got to get more and more of our care and prevention under what are called risk arrangements, using our health plan and other vehicles. When we hold the financial risk, when we hold the financial dollar, we can give it back to the delivery system, to you smart folks, and say, hey, create incentives, create systems that encourage us and reward us all very well for keeping people well and healthy and treating them efficiently, as opposed to just treating folks when they get sick or injured. We need to complete the tearing down of the walls in our entities and sometimes in our departments. We are one. We are only one Health First. Continuing with our IDN, we've got to engage community partners in aligned relationships. I've mentioned many of them to you in the past: BHA, the Brevard Health Alliance that serves people on Medicaid and that are medically indigent, the well over 1,000 private practice physicians with whom we work regularly and partner. We've got to recognize we're going to work in the old world, or our existing world, but we have to do so with ever-increasing frequency. If you'll go back to that first video, you have been remarkable in terms of how much cost we've been able to take out of the system. We've got to even be more transformationally efficient going forward. We know the government's going to cut us. That's not maybe, that's an absolute certainty. Let's get ahead of that and figure out how we can be smartly more efficient before we're cut and forced to react. What gets very challenging is that we've got to operate in the existing world while we build and transition to the model for the new and emerging world. A metaphor I've sometimes heard for this is we've got to fly the old prop cargo plane while we're building the new jet plane in the cargo hold. Not easy to do. Our next response, we must become transformationally more efficient. I'll give you an example at the end of these, and don't be too intimidated by the challenge I put before us. I'm saying let's try and become 25% more efficient, 25% more efficient per unit than we were at the end of 2016. That's remarkable. That's a huge improvement and a big goal. That kind of goal used to be called a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And it is one. But we want to get ahead of where the world is going and where reimbursement is going so that we can not only be in a position to deliver care, but sustain ourselves into the future. That will require that we change the way we think about service, care and environments of service. Will we do things live? What things will we do virtually, real time versus asynchronous, which means stacking them up like in texts or emails? Inpatient versus outpatient, our settings versus the customer's choice. We've got a lot of considerations to make in the not too distant future. We want to do so while achieving our commitment to excellence. We're not going to compromise being the very best. We're not going to compromise in terms of clinical quality and customer experience. How do we do both? It's not a let's become more efficient or let's be clinically excellent. It's both. And this is not, and if you notice on the overhead, it's this is all in caps. This is not a cost-cutting exercise or an FTE or personnel reduction plan. FTE, you probably hear administrators talking or using that acronym all the time. It stands for full-time equivalent, but it really means a person. It means a position. That is not the goal here. And I'm going to give you an example that was given to me by Rick McKnight, our Chief Digital Officer. This is an example of the kinds of thinking we have to be transformationally efficient. Let me ask you to think of the airline industry. It was, 10 years ago when we all made our air travel plans by calling up an airline and saying, I'd like to fly to Kansas City. What options do you have? Then we call the next airline and the next airline. And they would make all the decisions for us. We'd get a seat. We didn't know what other options they were. We'd have a price. Now we do that all ourselves. We go online, we shop, we compare prices, we pick our own seats, we pick our locations. We can do it all ourselves at our own time, on our own terms. It's gone so far now. I mean, I recently traveled. I didn't have to talk to somebody from Southwest until I actually got on the plane. We tag our own bags, we check them in, we go through TSA, and if we have pre-check, we barely have to talk to anybody there, and we're on the plane. And you know, I don't know about you all, but I am way more happy with doing it all myself than having the airlines do it for us. And the brilliance of what the airlines did was that they offloaded billions of dollars of expensive process that only made their customers mad. And they empowered their customers to have control over those services. And it did not result in the loss of jobs. Have you noticed? There haven't been any big layoffs in the airline industry. Quite to the contrary. As they made it easier for us to use their services, the number of us using airlines only grew. So the people that were once engaged in those irritating processes were employed elsewhere within the airlines. This is actually a way for us to grow, not a way for us to shrink. The next response, we'll engage in strategic partnerships. We're going to consider and likely enter into a small number of strategic partnerships, but here's what we'll look at. We need to make sure that they give us capabilities that we don't yet have for the new world, but we need. So what partners could help us get there quicker? And who can give us these needed capabilities at a speed sufficient to let us meet the emerging challenges before those challenges overwhelm us? Finally, no matter what partnerships we consider and any that we enter, we must maintain local ownership of essential healthcare services. We don't want decisions being made about what healthcare stays and what healthcare is available in Brevard at some distant city, St. Louis, Cleveland, Milwaukee, wherever. And the final major category is we will invest in our future. We're going to be creating new ambulatory environments as we recognize things will be moving out of the hospitals, some more routine procedures into ambulatory settings. We're in the process right now of designing the ambulatory settings of the future, where we'll be doing same-day and short-stay surgeries, diagnostics. We'll probably have some physician offices. Heck, we may even tag a Starbucks onto the end of them. We're going to have customer-facing ambulatory settings that are easy to use and clinically relevant. We're developing new models of care and prevention. You're going to be involved in helping us do that. What will we need to be able to prevent disease? How do we need to change the way that we interact and the services we deliver to have care in new, innovative, but effective settings? For example, we were the fourth system in the country that enacted an EICU, the Electronic Intensive Care Unit. And we have fantastic clinicians there that monitor people in our ICUs, patients in our ICUs at all of our hospitals. We have intensive care physicians, nurses, and other clinicians. Technology is now being developed that would enable us to send certain people home that could be safely treated at home and monitored remotely using devices that could be surveilled by the people in the EICU. Where would you rather be if you had your choice and it could be safe and effective? At home or in a hospital? Home is safer, it's cheaper, and it's certainly more comfortable. I'm not saying for sure we'll do that, but that's the kind of thinking we need to engage in about what kind of care environment should be used. Digital innovations. We have no idea what's coming next. Rick McKnight, the fellow that gave me the airline example, he spends his entire time looking out and looking at and this is an actual number, thousands of digital innovations that are being created. And some of the things Rick is finding and bringing back to us will change the way that we deliver care and change the way we serve the people that we serve. We also need to ensure that our existing capabilities, like hospitals, are safe, modern, attractive, and ready for the future. So we are actively developing a modernization and customer-facing plan to bring all of our physical plants in our hospitals, in our medical groups, up to modern standards that folks across the country would expect. And finally, I probably don't need to say it, but why in the heck do we have to have this plan? And you see it here before you. I have a great deal of confidence that we can successfully prepare for this future. I don't guess that, I know that, because the success over the last 7 years proves we have done it. We've met enormous challenges and succeeded. We can do it. You have the skill, you have the will, and finally we must. We know the factors I shared with you are real. If we ignore them, they will overcome us. We have no intention of letting that happen. So we're going to create the future we want for us and for healthcare in Brevard, and not allow it to be dictated by circumstances that others perceive to be out of their control. Well, that concludes my presentation in this three-part series. I'll conclude the video the way that I always do, with Papa's Corner. For those of you that have not seen a video, every month I share a story from my kids or grandkids or friends or family and some ideas that you've sent in. And this month it is from Kim Abaddon and the Foundation, and she shared the following story about her daughter, Sky. My daughter, Sky, is 3, by the way, my favorite age. 3 is hysterical. Is 3 and is fascinated by my jewelry. So I let her wear one of my necklaces during movie night because it looks like a princess. After the 3rd round of "don't put that necklace in your mouth," Sky said to me, "Mama, can you go away so you don't see me put this in my mouth?" Her mother noted, "Clever girl." Sky had no intention of stopping. She just wanted her mom out of the room. If you have a story you'd like to share, please send it to the email you'll find on the screen, and hopefully you'll see your story in Papa's Corner in a month coming soon. God bless and good day.